Daemon Targaryen mirrors Jon Snow in that he swears himself to a Targaryen queen due to the threat of the Long Night. Daemon won't repeat Jon Snow's tragic fate with Rhaenyra, as he remains loyal and meets his end in a heroic duel. Through their lineage, Jon Snow is Daemon's descendant, connecting the characters. Character parallels between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones and the Season 2 finale just created a notable similarity between Daemon Targaryen and Jon Snow. Played by Matt Smith in the House of the Dragon cast, Daemon isn't one that naturally draws many personality comparisons to Jon Snow, but his arc going forward mirrors the iconic Game of Thrones hero in an interesting way. Much of this ties to Daemon's visions in Harrenhal, where he saw Aegon's dream of the Song of Ice and Fire or the events of Game of Thrones Season 8. Jon Snow had a tendency to be mopey in the earlier seasons, but he was always well-meaning and cared about doing the right thing. He has a strong moral code imbued upon him by Ned Stark. Daemon, on the other hand, is known for his anger and volatility and has killed several innocent people throughout the show. With that in mind, the world of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series often blends the lines of morality in its character archetypes, with Daemon now fitting into a Jon Snow-type role for the final seasons. The culmination of Daemon's Season 2 visions is him viewing Aegon's dream and understanding the threat of the White Walkers and the Long Night. Daemon seems to still have his own interests in mind, but he understands the value of what's at stake and is intent on fighting for Rhaenyra going forward. This fulfills a similar role to Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen in Seasons 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones. Jon is intent on defeating the White Walker threat and swears himself to Daenerys in return for her assistance. The pieces are jumbled around, but all the core elements exist in both shows. A Targaryen male bends the knee to a Targaryen queen, convinced of the Long Night. Daemon even uses the Stark words "winter is coming," creating more of a parallel to Jon's Stark heritage. Jon is naturally a more loyal character than Daemon, but both surrendered the opportunity to be kings of their own, in some capacity, as part of this greater purpose. A vital aspect of Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen's relationship is that it ends in tragedy, with the former being forced to kill the latter to protect the realm. While Daenerys wasn't right to end up on the Iron Throne based on her choices in Season 8, it's still a challenging moment given the years Game of Thrones spent building her character. Importantly, Daemon doesn't kill Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra never loses control in the same capacity that Daenerys does in The Bells. At least not in the book, that is. While Season 2 seems to indicate the potential for Daemon's treachery, he won't end up betraying Rhaenyra. In fact, his final act is one of arguable heroism, as he dies in a duel with Aemon Targaryen, eliminating the greatest potential threat to Rhaenyra's reign. With the added context of Aegon's dream, Daemon's loyalty and willingness to die in battle for Rhaenyra is enforced even more by the potential of a supernatural threat years down the line. Oddly, the decision to have Daemon motivated by defending the realm from the Long Night brings him closer to being an anti-hero. The outcome of the Dance of the Dragons sees Rhaenyra and Daemon Targaryen's son, Aegon II, end up as king, continuing the Targaryen lineage for a time. So while neither Rhaenyra nor Daemon ends up as official monarchs of Westeros, they essentially win the war because their bloodline wins the war. However, all of Aegon II's sons die rather quickly, and decades later, Rhaenyra and Daemon's son, Viserys Sioux, rules the Iron Throne for a year before his death, re-establishing the bloodline. The line passes through Kings Viserys Sioux, Aegon IV, Daeron Hu, Maekar I, Aegon V, Jaehaerys Xiu, Aerys Xiu, and Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. Jon Snow is a descendant of House Targaryen through Prince Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark, making him Daemon's great-great-great-great-great-grandson. This whole bloodline occurs during the roughly 170 years between House of the Dragon's Dance of the Dragons and Game of Thrones. They're a strange pairing of characters to be related, and even stranger to be fulfilling a similar narrative pattern, given their many differences.